The girl nobody wanted. The slave ship floated through the black sky like a silent monster. Its engines were old and slow. The metal walls inside were cold and full of noise. People in chains sat close together, their faces empty, their eyes lost in one dark corner. A small alien girl sat. Her skin was pale and weak. Her clothes were torn, her body thin, like she had not eaten for days. She did not move, she just looked at the floor as if hoping to disappear. She did not have a name. The guards called her it or trash, sometimes surplus. She had been taken from her home long ago. Now she was nothing, just a leftover. The slavers had no use for her. She was too small, too weak, not worth selling. One big alien guard walked past her. He looked down and kicked her side gently to see if she was alive. She flinched but said nothing. He laughed and called out to the captain. She's still breathing, but she's worthless. Throw her out. The captain did not even look back. He was busy checking the price tags of stronger slaves. He waved his hand without care. Surplus has no value. Toss her. We do not feed garbage. The big guard opened the back gate of the ship. A blast of cold air rushed in. Space outside looked dark and endless. He grabbed the girl by her arm. Her body was light like paper. She did not fight. She had no strength left. Others watched but said nothing. They had learned not to speak, not to care. She was just one more forgotten, one more nobody. The guard threw her out like trash. Her body floated into the black sky. The door closed behind her. Like nothing happened. The ship kept flying as if she never existed. She did not die. Her body fell through space fast and silent. Then suddenly a small planet pulled her down. Its gravity grabbed her like a hand. She fell through clouds and wind. Her body hit the sand hard, but not hard enough to kill her. The planet was dry and empty, a desert with red rocks and sharp winds. No cities, no people, just wild ground and hot air. Far away in the hills, a man named Reed was walking alone. He wore a heavy coat and carried an old scanner. He had lived here for many years alone, away from war, away from noise. He liked the silence, he liked peace, but that day the scanner beeped once. Then again something had fallen from the sky, not a ship, not a rock, something small and alive. Reed followed the signal over sharp hills and deep sand. He moved fast, but careful. The sky above was clear blue, and the sun burned like fire. When he reached the place, he saw a small body in the sand, broken, and still. He knelt beside it. It was not human. The skin was soft and gray. The eyes closed, the fingers long and thin. She looked like a lost child from another world. Her chest moved slow. She was alive, but barely. Reed looked around. No one in sight. No ship in the sky. Nothing but silence. He picked her up gently. Her body was like too light. He could feel the bones. He carried her back to his shelter, a small house made of old ship parts hidden between rocks. He placed her on a soft mat, gave her water, cleaned her wounds. She did not wake up, but she breathed better. Now Reed sat nearby, his eyes watching her. He did not know who she was, where she came from, or why she was falling from space, but he had seen many things in his life, and this was not normal. This was something else. The night came fast and the stars filled the sky outside. The wind blew strong. The girl moved in her sleep. Her hands shook, her lips whispered a word in a strange language. And for a second, a soft blue light glowed under her skin. Reed saw it, and his eyes narrowed. He had seen technology like this before, but not from a girl like her, not from a slave. He stood up and walked to the window. He looked at the stars. He felt something was coming, something dangerous back inside. The girl opened her eyes, slow and afraid. She saw the man standing far. She tried to sit, but her body failed. Reed walked to her and gave her more water, his voice calm and low. You are safe now, whoever you are. She looked at him with tired eyes, full of pain, full of fear, full of silence. Outside, in the dark sky, a small drone flew high above, silent and hidden. Its red light blinked once, then vanished into the stars. Something had found her again, and it was not coming to help. The wind outside was dry and sharp. It whispered through the rocky hills like a ghost lost in time. The desert slept under a cold moon, and the stars watched from above, silent and endless. Inside a small shelter made from old ship parts, the alien girl lay still, her skin pale and cold, her breathing weak and shallow, her eyes half Open but empty, her body wrapped in a blanket too big for her small frame. Reed sat near the wall watching her, his face quiet, his hands holding a warm drink. He had seen many things in his life. He had fought in wars and lost people. He had survived things no man should. But this girl, this strange weak creature from the sky, made him feel something he had not felt in years. He did not know why he had saved her. Maybe because she looked helpless, maybe because she reminded him of someone, maybe because he was just tired of letting everything die. The girl moved a little, her fingers twitched, her lips opened as if to speak. But no words came. She looked around slow and confused, her eyes wide and afraid. Reed walked over calm and slow. He placed a cup of water beside her and stepped back. He did not speak. She was scared and broken, and words would only make it worse. She stared at the water, unsure what to do. Then, after a long moment, she reached for it, her hand shaking the whole time. She sipped slow and quiet, as if expecting someone to punish her. Heartless turned away and checked his scanner again. He wanted to know where she came from, but the device showed nothing. No ships, no signals, no answers, just a blank sky and dry land. He opened a storage box and took out an old tablet. It was alien tech, something he had found long ago, something no human had been able to unlock. He placed it on the floor near her, just to see what would happen. She looked at it, and something inside her changed. Her eyes lit up, a soft glow passed through her fingers. Her hand moved over the tablet, without thinking, like she had done it 1,000 times before. The tablet turned on its screen, full of symbols and colors. Reed froze. This thing had never worked before, not for him, not for anyone. And now this weak girl had opened it, without a word, without effort. He watched as she touched one symbol, then another. The screen showed a map, a long list of codes. A name appeared in alien script. Reed could not read it, but she could. Her lips moved without sound. She knew what it meant. Then the light faded, her hand dropped, and she fell back, her energy gone, her breath heavy, her eyes closing again. Reed stood still, his mind full of questions. This girl was not just a slave, not just a broken thing. She had power, knowledge, something hidden deep inside her, and someone out there might be looking for. He walked to the door and looked at the stars. They looked peaceful, but he knew better. Peace never lasted, not in his world, not in any world. Past the girl grew stronger. Little by little, she started walking around the shelter, slow and careful. She never spoke, not even a word, but her eyes followed everything she watched. Reed, when he cooked, when he worked, when he cleaned his weapons. One day, he gave her a piece of fruit. She took it with both hands, her fingers shaking. Then she looked up and whispered a word so soft it almost vanished in the air. Thank you. It was not her voice that surprised him, but the weight behind it. As if no one had ever shown her kindness, as if those two words were foreign and strange too. Heartless nodded but said nothing. He did not want to scare her away again. That night he sat near the fire outside. The stars above seemed to watch him closer. The air felt heavier, like something was coming inside. The girl slept, but her dreams were not calm. She moved in her sleep, her face twisted in fear, her hands clenched, the scars on her back glowing, faint blue lines pulsing with hidden energy. Suddenly, her eyes opened wide. She sat up, breathing hard, sweat on her skin. She looked around then at her hands and the light under her skin. She bit her lip and tried to calm down, but she could feel it waking up. Again, the power inside her was not gone, just sleeping. And now it was moving like a beast, stirring from a long rest. Reed walked in and saw her sitting up, her body glowing in the dark, her eyes wide and lost. She looked at him, and for a moment he saw something not weak, not broken, but dangerous. She whispered one word again, not human, not English, a word full of meaning and pain and memory. He did not understand it, but he knew it mattered. He knew she had been made, not born trained, not raised, built, not loved outside. A small sound broke the silence. A drone flew past, low and quiet, its red eye blinking, once then disappearing into the night. Reed's eyes followed it, his jaw tight. He knew what that meant. Someone had found her, someone was searching, and they were getting close. Inside, the girl sat still, her breath steady, now her glow fading, her hands resting in her lap. But Reed could feel it in his bones. This was just the beginning. The sun rose slow behind the desert hills, lighting the red rocks with golden fire, the air still cold, but waking from the night. Like an old giant stretching after sleep inside the shelter, the girl sat near a small table, her fingers tracing shapes. On the surface, her eyes calm but far away, like she was here and not here at the same time. Reed cooked simple food, his hands steady, his mind not at ease. The image of the glowing scars on her back, the words she spoke, the tablet unlocking the drone. Flying past all of it ran circles in his thoughts again and again. He placed food near her and stepped back. She looked at the plate, then at him, then back at the food, and picked up a piece. Slowly, like she was afraid it would vanish, she ate with quiet hands. No rush, no sound, just focus and silence. Reed walked to the shelf and picked up the old tablet again. He brought it back and placed it in front of her, her eyes locked on it, like it was a part of her. He said nothing, but the question floated between them like smoke in still air. Who are you? She touched the screen again, her hand glowing soft blue, like before. The symbols returned, the map, the codes, the name. This time she pressed deeper. A new screen appeared, full of images, files, data logs. Voices speaking an alien language. Her fingers moved fast, like memory was guiding her, not thought. Reed watched her every move, his soldier eyes seeing more than just hands on a screen. He saw skill, he saw training, he saw purpose. She stopped on one file, a photo of her face, younger, healthier, but the same. Her name in alien script, her ID number, her classification, her status marked as failed. Reed leaned in and read the only word he could understand, failed. She stared at it like it was a wound that never healed, her eyes heavy with the weight of the label, like it was burned into her soul. He whispered low, not asking but knowing what it meant. You were made, not born. She nodded once, slow and small. He sat beside her, now the air between them full of things not said, things too deep for words. She opened another file. A video played, showing a room full of small beings like her standing in line, glowing slightly, being tested, being trained, being punished when they failed, being rewarded when they obeyed. Reed watched in silence, his jaw tight, his fists clenched, his heart heavy with something he had buried long ago, anger. Video ended, and the screen turned black again. She looked at him, her lips parted as if to speak, but then closed her eyes instead, like the words were trapped inside, too scared to come out. He stood and walked to the door, needing air, needing distance, needing to understand what this all meant outside. The wind blew soft, carrying dust across the rocks, the sun higher, now the heat starting to rise. He looked at the sky, remembering old wars, remembering soldiers who were made, not grown tools, not people, machines of flesh and blood, built by hands that never cared. And now she was here in his house, in his world, asking, without asking, for a chance to be something else, something more, something human. He turned back and walked inside. She was still at the table, the tablet off now, her hands folded, her eyes on the floor. He sat down and spoke calm and clear. You are not a weapon. She looked at him, unsure what to believe. He repeated slower, softer. You are not a weapon. A tear rolled down her cheek, not loud, not dramatic, just one silent drop of truth. He passed her a small object from the shelf, an old pendant, something human, something simple. She held it like it was magic, like it meant more than he knew then. Her body shook, her eyes wide, her skin glowing brighter than ever before, not out of fear, but something else, awakening, rising, breaking free. She fell to her knees, her hands on the floor, the glow spreading through her like fire without flame. Her voice whispered one word over and over in her language, a word Reed did not know but felt deep in his bones. Reached for her, but the light pushed back like a wave of warm wind, not painful, just powerful. Then it stopped, her body still, her breathing deep, her eyes full of light but clear for the first time. She stood on shaking legs, not broken, not afraid, just unsure, like someone walking after crawling too long. Outside, another drone passed low and fast, its red eye flashing 3 times before vanishing behind the hills. Reed grabbed his rifle, checked the charge, looked at her, and nodded. They found you. She looked at him, then at the hills, then back at the tablet, and nodded too. No words needed, just truth. She was not just any alien, she was a secret, a weapon, a mistake, and maybe, just maybe, a miracle asterisk. The wind carried dust across the dry hills, sharp and steady like old whispers, moving through time. Sun burned the sky with orange light, and long shadows danced over cracked stone inn. The distance, a sound broke the stillness, not the wind, not the rustle of dry leaves, but something heavier, wheels on gravel engines, humming, low voices speaking in. Clicks and growls, not meant for human ears. Reed stood at the edge of the hill, looking down through an old pair of desert binoculars. 3 figures moved near the abandoned station, tall, armored, bodies smooth and dark with weapons on their backs, eyes glowing red under shaded helmets. They were not locals, they were not travelers, they were hunters. Behind him the girl waited silent, her arms crossed her head. Low, her glow faint but steady like a star trying to hide behind clouds. She felt them. Too, not their presence, but their purpose. And it made her shake. Reed turned and walked back, his voice low, his face calm, but his eyes sharp. 3 of them, not scouts. They are trackers, maybe ex-military, maybe black market. I don't know yet, but they are not here for trade. The girl looked up, her lips pressed tight, her fingers clenched. They are here for me. Reed gave a short nod. He opened the storage hatch under the floor, pulling out old gear. 2 rifles, a knife, a pair of signal jammers, and a small EMP charge. He handed her a small device with blinking lights and wires. She stared at it, unsure, but he guided her fingers, wrapped her hand around it, and showed her how to use it. Push this when they get too close. It will blind their trackers for 30 seconds. Run when that happens. Do not stop, do not look back, you understand? She nodded once her eyes locked on his voice had no fear, only focus, and that gave her courage. They moved fast through the rock, staying low, staying quiet. The sun above growing hotter by the minute. The hunters spread out, scanning the sand, their tech, searching for movement, heat signal, body, trace, anything that did not belong. Reed watched from behind a high ridge. He placed the EMP near an old metal post, ready to trigger if needed. The girl hid behind a broken Land Cruiser, her breath slow, her heart fast. One of the hunters stopped, his head turned slightly, his arm lifted. He spoke in a cold voice. Target located, signal confirmed, quadrant 639 moving. To capture. Reed cursed under his breath and tapped his comlink. It's now, go west, use the old path, follow the cliff, do not stop. Girl ran, her feet light over the sand, her form fast and silent. But the hunters moved faster. One turned and leapt into the air, using the jetpack to cut the distance fast and hard. Reed fired a shot, hitting the pack. The engine burst into smoke. The hunter crashed into a rock with a loud hiss, metal scraping against stone. He fired again, hitting the second in the leg, slowing him just enough. The third hunter turned toward him, rifle raised, laser locked. Reed ducked behind a boulder, the shot slicing through the air where his head had been. Girl reached the cliff path, her legs aching, her lungs burning, but she kept going. Then behind her, a sound, metal on rock. The second hunter leapt from above, landing in front of her, his weapon raised, his voice cold. Surrender, prototype, you belong to the Ascendancy. Return now or be destroyed. She looked at him, her glow rising, her voice quiet but firm. I am not yours. The hunter stepped forward, weapon ready, but before he could fire, she pressed the device in her hand. Light burst around him. Static screamed through his sensors, and his helmet sparked the jamming wave. Hit hard and fast. She ran again, turning sharp into a narrow pass, her feet slipping on loose stones, but she kept moving. Behind her, the hunter roared in anger, blinded, but not broken. Reed used a distraction. He activated the EMP. The blast shut down nearby tech. The lead hunter fell to one knee, his systems crashing, his body frozen for a second, long enough for Reed to rush in and knock him down with the butt of his rifle. One left, the one chasing the girl. She reached the end of the path, a dead end high above the valley with nowhere to go. She turned, breathing heavy, her back to the cliff, her eyes wide as the hunter came through the dust. Raised his weapon again, no more words, just one clear goal, but this time she did not run. Her hands glowed bright, her skin lit from within her body, surrounded by a pulse of soft blue light. She stepped forward and screamed, not in fear but in fury. The Light exploded from her like a wave of power, not fire, not lightning, something old or something. Deeper the hunter flew back, crashing into stone. His weapon shattered, his armor cracked, his body still. She dropped to her knees, the glow fading her hands, shaking, her breath lost, but her eyes steady. Reed reached her seconds later, checking her arms, checking her eyes, his voice calm again. "You did good, kid, you held your ground." She looked up at him, her voice barely a whisper. "I don't want to be a weapon." He helped her stand, his arm around her shoulder, his voice low. "Then let's make sure no one ever uses you again." Behind them, smoke rose from the hills. The hunters down for now, but not forever. They would come again, and next time they would bring more. The night came fast, chasing the last light across the sky, like a wave swallowing fire. The desert turned cold, the air sharp with silence and something heavier, something waiting. Reed sat by the door of the shelter, fixing his rifle, checking each part with steady hands, his eyes tired, but focused, his mind not on the weapon, but on the girl inside. She sat in the corner, her knees pulled close, her eyes open but lost in something deep. Her fingers traced circles in the dust, not out of boredom, but memory, old pain still fresh inside. She had fought back today, not with fear, not by running, but by facing something stronger, something trained to kill, and yet she stood her ground and burned like a star refusing to go dark. Reed watched her for a while, then stood and placed a small object in her hand, a training stick made of steel and wires, light but strong. He knelt beside her and spoke, quiet like speaking to fire. "If they come again, you need more than glow, you need to fight with hands and will and choice." She looked at him, her eyes asking without words, "Why should I fight if I was made to be used, if I was built to serve?" He answered not with words, but with his own story, scars on his arms, old burns on his neck, marks left by war, by choices made by others, by orders followed without question. "I was once like you, following orders, losing myself, but I chose to stop, and now I choose to help you." She nodded, slow like a leaf falling through still air, and held the stick tighter. Next morning the training began, simple moves at first, how to stand, how to breathe, how to move like a wave, not like a machine. Reed showed her again and again, patient as stone, sharp as wind. She stumbled, she fell, she failed, but never gave up. Every time she rose again, her glow faint but steady, her steps shaky but stronger. By the third day her hands moved faster, her eyes sharper, her feet sure like roots growing through stone. She still did not speak much, but her body spoke enough. Then came the test, not planned, not controlled, not a drill. Shelter warning light blinked red, something near, something coming fast. 2 signals, not drones, not scouts. Heavier, stronger, faster. Reed grabbed his rifle and handed her the stick. Her hand shook for only a moment, then it stilled, her glow rising again, not wild but focused. They moved out through the back path into the rocks, using shadow and silence, like old friends. The wind carried the sound of engines, 2 bikes low and sleek moving over the sand like snakes hunting heat. Reed led her to a narrow ridge, high ground, sharp view. He lay flat, aiming down, watching through his scope. Then he saw them. 2 armored hunters, not like before. These had newer gear, better tracking, faster response. Fired once, clean and loud. The first hunter fell from the bike, rolling across the sand like metal thunder. The second turned sharp and fired back. Red shots cutting through the air. Reed ducked behind cover, his hand bleeding, his teeth tight. The girl moved without fear, her feet fast over stone, her stick in hand, her eyes locked on the second hunter, who jumped off the bike and charged her like a beast. Swung his blade wide, sharp and glowing. She ducked, the wind of the blade brushing her hair. She spun low and struck his leg, the stick humming with energy. The armor cracked. He growled and attacked again, this time faster, his blade moving like fire. But she remembered the training. She stepped aside, let the blade pass, and struck his side. Then his arm, then his head. The hunter fell hard, his weapon sliding away, his body twitching, his mask broken, his face showing for the first time. Tired, old eyes full of confusion. How could this small thing beat him? She stood over him, her stick raised, her glow bright, her heart racing. Then she lowered her hand and turned away behind her. Reed limped closer, his rifle still hot, his eyes on her, not with fear, but something else, something proud. You did it. She looked at him, not with joy, not with pride. Just breathless, knowing what she had done, knowing what it meant. I fought. Yes, I won. Yes, but I am still afraid. Good. Stay afraid. It keeps you sharp, keeps you alive. They walked back through the rocks, through the wind, through the silence, now broken by memory. And victory. That night the fire burned warmer, not brighter, but warmer, like something new had started, something old had ended. She sat near it, her hands resting, her glow dim but peaceful, her eyes watching the stars like they meant something. Reed cleaned the wound on his arm, his face calm, his voice low. They will send more next time, stronger, maybe smarter, maybe worse. Looked at him, and this time her voice was clear like water over stone. Then I will be ready, and for the first time he believed it. Not because of her power, not because of her fight, but because of her choice. She had chosen to stand, to fight, to become more than what she was made for, and maybe that was the most human thing of all. Asterisk. The wind had changed its voice that morning, softer, but heavier, like it carried secrets, not dust. The sky above was wide and quiet, but Reed could feel something behind the silence, something watching, waiting, holding its breath inside the shelter. The girl sat near the window, her hands resting on her knees, her eyes fixed on the empty horizon, her glow dim like a candle, half asleep. She had not spoken since the last fight, but her silence was not fear. This time it was thought. Reed checked the old gearboxes again, opening crates, pulling out things. Long-forgotten pieces of old tech, fragments of maps, parts of a broken alien unit. The same unit they found on one of the fallen hunters last week. Placed it on the table in front of her, and spoke quiet but clear. I think this can tell us what they want from you. She looked at it, then at him, her fingers hovering over the cracked surface, as if afraid to touch it. As if it knew her, and she knew it. She pressed one button, then another. The screen flickered, then glowed blue, then green. Symbols appeared in strange lines flowing like water. Then one line blinked brighter than the rest, and a voice came through, soft, deep. Cold subject, classified prototype series, 847 unit. Failed termination, incomplete recovery, required reward. Issued high-value asset, do not destroy, repeat, do not destroy. Reed stared at the screen, his jaw tight, his hands still, the words sinking into the room like heavy stones. She looked away, her voice small. I was never a person, not to them, just a thing. He nodded slowly, his voice like a whisper through smoke, but not anymore. She opened another file on the screen, her fingers moving fast, her face set, not angry, not sad, just ready. A video appeared, blurry and broken, but clear enough to see what mattered. A lab filled with machines and lights, glass walls filled with blue liquid, and inside small shapes floating, still and silent, rows of them, all alike, all glowing like stars. Caught in bottles, a voice spoke over the image, this time sharper and proud. Our new units show increased neural capacity, psychic burst, level 2 plasma resistance. Training begins tomorrow. Failure rate expected to drop with latest genome update. Emotional dampening, active combat readiness within 6 cycles. Then the screen showed her younger, smaller, standing in front of a cold silver table as a masked figure walked around her, placing wires across her skin, testing her reaction to light, to sound, to pain, her eyes wide, her body still. Then another voice entered, softer, curious, more human. She responds to music, shows curiosity, even empathy, possible flaw or hidden advantage. Need further testing, request extension before disposal. File ended. The screen went dark. The girl looked down, her hands trembling, not from fear, but memory. Reed reached out and touched her shoulder, light and steady. You are not what they made you to be. She met his eyes, and for the first time she believed him. Not just with her head, but with her heart. He opened a small drawer and took out a thin metal tag, an ID from the fallen hunter. It had a code, a location, a message fragment. He placed it on the table and pointed to the last line. This is where they are now, the ones who made you, the ones still making more. Her breath caught, her glow rising more. Yes. Maybe hundreds, maybe more like you, maybe worse, maybe better. I don't know, but they are not free, they are not safe. She stood now, not fast, not slow. Just steady, her hands at her side, her eyes not afraid, not lost, just full of fire. We have to stop them. Reed picked up his rifle and nodded. Then we will, they prepared in silence, each movement sure, each step. Clear maps, old tech weapons, water, food. The desert was cruel and long and unforgiving, but they both had walked harder paths before. By nightfall, they moved out through the rocks, through the cold, through the dark. The stars above watching like ancient eyes. They reached the edge of the valley before sunrise, hidden by shadow. Looking down at a massive base, half buried in the ground, glowing with alien light, guarded by machines, not men, silent but deadly. She looked at it and felt something deep, something pull and push like a storm behind her ribs. She remembered the halls, the voices, the pain. She remembered being told she was broken. She remembered being thrown away. Reed watched her and waited. He said nothing, he did not have to. She took one step forward, then another, the ground firm beneath her feet, her glow rising with each breath. Not wild, not dangerous, just strong like truth. Finding its voice inside the base, alarms slept, red lights, waiting doors, locked systems. Quiet, but something shifted, something felt her coming, and far away in a dark chamber, deep beneath the metal floors, a figure turned toward the screen, his eyes cold, his voice calm. She is alive. He smiled, not with joy, but with control. Bring her back, and if she resists, break her again. The sky above the valley was dark with storm clouds rolling slow like smoke across glass. The air heavy with static, the wind low and tense, like the whole world was waiting for something to begin, or something to end. Girl stood on the ridge, her eyes fixed on the alien base below, her hands at her side, her glow soft but ready. Reed beside her, rifle in hand, gear strapped to his back, his breath slow, his voice steady. This is it, we go in, we find the core, we shut them down. She nodded once, her face calm, not blank, not broken, just full of fire. She was not scared of them anymore, not scared of what they had done or what they had built. She was only scared of letting them keep doing it. They moved through the outer wall, fast and silent, cutting through security lines, slipping past sensor towers, crawling under steel gates. The storm above flashing in the sky like a warning or a promise inside. The base, the walls were cold and silver, full of wires and lights and voices, machines humming deep underground, and voices echoing from the halls, commands spoken in sharp words, screens blinking with red signals. She led the way, not with maps or plans, but with memory. Every step she took, she remembered every turn, every light, every door that once kept her trapped, now opening at her will. They reached the central chamber, a large, round space filled with glowing tanks, machines feeding into them, liquid flowing, data streaming across screens, and inside the tanks more like her, some asleep, some half aware, some just still. Reed looked at them, then at her, his voice low but fierce. We shut this down now, no more of this. She walked to the main console, her fingers touching the screen, her skin lighting up as the machine responded, codes flashing, warnings sounding, doors locking above them, alarms now awake. Far below in the command room, the figure from before stood tall, his face no longer calm, now sharp with rage. His hand slammed on the table as he shouted, seal every level, stop her now. She cannot be allowed to reach the core. Reed and the girl ran through the next hall as metal doors slammed behind them, red lights flashing, drones flying from hidden walls. Weapons ready, sensors locked on heat and sound and light. Reed fired clean and fast, covering the path, his steps sure, his shots sharp. The girl moved beside him, fast and fluid, her glow brighter, now her hands pushing out waves of energy, bending the drones off balance, crashing them into the walls. They reached the core chamber, a high, narrow room filled with cables, a giant machine beating like a heart in the center, pulsing with every signal, every order, every life inside the base, connected to this one point. She stepped forward and the machine responded, her glow sinking with the rhythm, her breath matching the pulse. Her hands lifted and touched the control panel, the lights around them flickering like they knew what was coming behind them. Heavy steps echoed, metal doors burst open, soldiers in black armor entered, rifles raised, voices shouting. Reed turned and took aim, holding the line while the girl worked, his voice calm, his heart loud. Do it now, shut it down. I'll hold them. She focused on the panel, her glow spreading through the cables. The machine started to change wires, shaking lights blinking faster, warning messages flooding the screens. Soldier broke through, aiming at her. Reed jumped between them, taking the shot, his body falling hard to the floor, his hand still reaching out, his voice weak, but still steady. Finish it, she screamed, not in fear, but fury, her whole body glowing like a star. Her hand slammed into core, the light bursting out in every direction, flooding the room, blinding the soldiers, crashing the machines. The core cracked. Sparks flew, power surged through the floor. The tanks outside shut down, the lights faded, the alarms stopped, and for one breath, the whole base went silent. Then, everything went dark. She crawled to Reed, his body still, his breath faint, his blood warm. Her hands shaking, her voice calling his name again and again. Like a child lost in a storm, he opened his eyes, weak but alive, his voice barely a whisper. "You did it," she cried, then not with sorrow, but with something else. Something she had never felt before, something that came from saving others, not herself. She helped him up, and together they walked out, through broken doors, through halls now empty, through the storm. Above now calm, they stood outside the base now, just a ruin behind them, the wind quiet again, the sky opening to stars. One by one she looked up, and for the first time saw them not as distant lights, but as places full of people, full of choices, full of hope. Reed turned to her and asked one question. What now? She looked ahead, then at him, then at the open sky. "Now I live, now I protect, now I choose." She smiled, not wide, not proud, just true. "And what do I call you?" He paused, then spoke with a voice full of new strength. "Call me Hope." And as the sun rose behind the hills and the shadows faded and the wind began to sing once more, the girl who was once thrown away walked forward into a world she had chosen, not as a weapon, not as a project, not as a mistake, but as something more, as someone human, as someone free.